Sam Altman just wrote about the incredibly rapid pace of AI as it transforms into superintelligence for everyone. He talks about the fundamentals driving it and the unfathomable implications. In particular, he said, anyone in 2035 should be able to marshal the intellectual capacity equivalent to everyone in 2025. Everyone should have access to unlimited genius to direct however they can imagine. There is a great deal of talent right now without the resources to fully express itself, and if we change that, the resulting creative output of the world will lead to tremendous benefits for us all. I don't think the world understands the implications of what it means when anyone has access to intelligence on that scale, much less all of us. So let's talk about it, because it's going to be an interesting ride. Anyone in 2035 being able to use intelligence equal to everyone in 2025 is not only strong superintelligence, it's effectively magic. I'm not engaging in hyperbole here, because the nature of science and technology isn't magic, and that's the problem. They aren't bounded by strict narrative rules or vague arcane limitations. Rather, scientific and technological advancements build on each other. So it's not so much how much genius you can muster at the drop of a hat or over the course of a day. It's how much science and technology have already advanced by the time you've reached that point. So not just by you personally or your AI, but by everyone else in the world whose work you can access. So it's not merely about your superhuman problem-solving abilities or those of your AIs, but the incredible scientific insights and technological resources they will have access to in addition to the intelligence at their disposal, which again, technically isn't magic. In many ways, it's more impressive. Altman's three observations are as follows. The intelligence of an AI model roughly equals the log of the resources used to train and run it. The cost to use a given level of AI falls about 10 times every 12 months, and lower prices lead to much more use. The socio-economic value of linearly increasing intelligence is super exponential in nature. To sum up, 1. It takes a huge increase in resources to train and use each major new AI model. 2. But the cost to run it drops to 1/10 of what it was within a year, leading it to being used more. 3. That single step up in model performance, say between GPT-2 and GPT-3, or GPT-4 and GPT-5, may cost a lot, but the value, if anything, increases even faster. Creating a model which is the millionth best programmer in the world may not sound like much until you realize it's the first AI to ever code, and the next model becomes the 1,000th best coder, and the next one the 175th best coder. Altman illustrates further with the example of AI agents effectively becoming coworkers, perhaps as soon as the end of this year. Let's imagine the case of a software engineering agent, which is an agent that we expect to be particularly important. Imagine that this agent will eventually be capable of doing most things a software engineer at a top company with a few years of experience could do, for tasks up to a couple of days long. It will not have the biggest new ideas, it will require lots of human supervision and direction, and it will be great at some things, but surprisingly bad at others. Still, imagine it as a real but relatively junior virtual coworker. Now imagine 1,000 of them, or 1 million of them. Now imagine such agents in every field of knowledge work. While there will be costs in terms of processing power and energy, which are constantly falling, see above, Think about what it means as each new type of agent becomes available, starting with tools like that software agent. Your company would have to oversee them, sure, but you could add 1 million junior software programmers and have them doing work for you 24 hours a day, forever, for far less than human junior programmers would cost. Now realize other agents will follow: marketing, customer service, accounting, logistics. Research by way of deep research is arguably already here. Imagine how much more any company could do with that many extra workers, even if they require oversight. Now realize that's not Altman's vision for 2035, but 2025. His ideas for what we'll see in a decade may seem overwhelming, but few workers and businesses are prepared for the level of change we'll start to see this year. To illustrate further, I've linked the video of a question and answer session Altman is taking part in the University of Tokyo, filmed only a few days before he wrote the above comments. Let's jump around a bit, starting with clips illustrating how far and how fast he expects us to progress over a decade, and then take a look at a few clips illuminating some of the reasons why he feels that way.
100 years out feels impossible to even conceptualize at this point. I think the world will be so totally, there will be, I just cannot imagine, I can't conceptualize what the capabilities of AI in 100 years will look like. In 10 years, I think it will still have hugely changed the world. We will we will see the rate of scientific progress, scientific discovery, maybe go up by like a factor of 10 from where it is today, maybe a factor of 100, something like that.
So, if a factor of 10, that's a decade's worth of progress in a year. A factor of 100, that's a century's worth in a year. If you can imagine as much as 1,000 years of progress in a decade, you can imagine what he's talking about.
Our a thing we say around the office is intelligence too cheap to meter. We want to figure out how to drive the cost of intelligence down as close to zero as we can so that we can make it available to everyone in the world. Like intelligence and access to these systems should be as close to free as possible. And we also really care about the equitable goal, which is why we want to do that.
And just to prove that we mean it, if you go back 2 years ago when GPT-3 launched, and then you compare that to today with some of our models, their models today are way smarter, and they are 1% the price of GPT-3 originally. So the cost has come way down, and we want to keep doing that.
Altman also talks about what he anticipates superintelligence being like in 10 years, which is strikingly not as extreme as what he's writing a few days later, but it's still very impressive. So let's get into that.
When the calculator was invented, there were people who said, no matter how good this calculator gets, I'm going to stay better at arithmetic. These people who were just really great at it. And no one can outrun the calculator. But that was okay because, we use the calculator and we start doing more complex math. In any given area, it'll be the same thing. You will not outrun the AI on raw horsepower. That's over. That's probably over this year. But using the tools, you can do all sorts of new things that will just not be possible. What I think it's going to be like is that every person has access to, as if they ran the best, most competent company on earth. And you can go in the same way that if you ran that company, you can come up with ideas and ask the people that work at the company to do it and figure out how to like orchestrate that. You can do that with AI. So everybody can go do that. And amazing new things will come out of it. But the skills that you need in that world are figuring out what people want, sort of creative vision, quick adaptability, resilience as everything is changing around you, and the sort of learning how to work with these tools to do way more than people could without it, but not trying to say like I'm going to outrun the calculator.
And to me, the lesson in there, the thing to take away now is just start using these tools. Start incorporating them into the way that you work, into the way that you study. When you're doing something new, ask yourself, is there a way that AI could help me do this faster? Do I need to be doing this myself, or can I outsource it to AI? And you find yourself gradually getting more efficient. You learn new techniques. You stay up, with the state of the art as AI changes, and you're going to be best fit and adapted to working with AI in the future.
Thank you. May I open the floor for the students, or do you have additional comments? Okay. Sam and Kevin, please feel free to ask them questions if you have any as well. But
Yeah,
let's
just to make
oh, sure.
make sure. So that means that, I mean, we as human, like, would also should adapt to this new technology, and then it's a kind of co-evolving situation.
I think co-evolution of society and technology is the exact right framework. It's not. I think that the wrong way to think about it is just like this thing is going to happen. It's going to and like it's going to beat us at everything. What will happen is it'll be like step by step evolving together, and what we do will be unimaginable to people that used to have to work without this technology. Like think about what someone can do today relative to what someone was capable of 100 years ago or 1,000 years ago. The sort of the possibilities go up, the expectation goes up too, and you have to learn how to work differently with these tools. But I think the ceiling is going to be very, very high.
By the way, there's a book called Co-Intelligence by a Wharton professor named Ethan Mollick. It's short, it's about 100 pages, but it's got a lot of really thoughtful writing about how he teaches with AI and how students can think about working with AI. I think it's well worth the read.
Let's leap forward to when Altman is talking again about what to expect in the next 10 years.
To make a specific prediction, if we talk about the 2025 in total intelligence on Earth, so all of the people, all of the coordination, all of the AI, just the total intellectual capacity on Earth, I would say that in 2035, maybe if the progress chart continues, then a single data center is smarter than the current total intellectual capacity of Earth. Now, in practice, you have to freeze it in time like that, because what's going to happen is we're going to learn all the way along there, and we're all going to individually get more capable. Our companies are going to get more capable, and that thing won't seem that impressive anymore. But if you compare 2035, one big data center, to 2025, all of Earth, I think it would be astonishing.
Fuji Sensei, do you have a comment?
So intellectual capacity includes all this understanding of the physical world.
We'll get there. By 2035, we'll get there.
Yeah, okay.
In 10 years, our university education will be fundamentally different,
Yeah,
perhaps.
well, should be.
What emergent properties would you expect from ChatGPT if you had 100 times more computing power? I know it's incrementally getting smarter, but something qualitatively new?
Yeah. So we're trying to find out. We're doing this new project called Stargate that has about 100 times the computing power of our current computer, because we want to answer exactly that question. We used to be in a paradigm where we only did pre-training, and each GPT number, 1, 2, 3, 4, each of those was exactly 100x of, or not exactly, but very close to 100x. And at each of those, there was a major new emergent thing. Internally, we've gone all the way to about maybe like a 4.5. So if you want to get to a 5.5, you would need that 100x more. I'll come back to that in a second. The most important thing that happened in the field, or at least to us in the last year, is these new models that can do reasoning. They are an incredible new compute efficiency gain. And we can get performance on a lot of benchmarks that in the old world we would have predicted wouldn't have come until GPT-6, something like that, from models that are much smaller by doing this reinforcement learning. So we kind of have a sense. Now, the trick is when we do it this new way, it doesn't get better at everything. We can get it better in certain dimensions. But we can now, I think, more intelligently than before say that if we were able to pre-train a much bigger model and do this, where it would be. And the thing that I would expect based off of what we're seeing with a jump like that is the first bits or sort of signs of life on genuine new scientific knowledge. So right now, GPT-4 can, or that's even too easy. Let's say like O3, our very latest, best model. That can program unbelievably well. And if people have already done it, it's not so good at going to like invent totally new algorithms, and or new physics or new biology, and that's the thing I think you'll get with the next 2 orders of magnitude. It's really quite the progress over the recent scale is quite amazing. Our very first reasoning model was like a top 1 millionth competitive programmer in the world. People thought that was very impressive. It's like, wow, an AI, it's the millionth best people that do this. That's pretty good. We then had a model that got to like top 10,000. O3, which we talked about publicly in December, is the 175th best competitive programmer in the world. I think our internal benchmark is now around 50, and maybe we'll hit number 1 by the end of this year. So
Just to bear that in mind, if their model hits number 1, it's technically, at least in terms of anything other than creating new algorithms, the best programmer in the world. So in that sense, in terms of things that are not completely original, it would at that point be at least slightly superhuman in its programming ability. He also is going to be talking about incredibly fast, incredibly capable reasoning models like O3 Mini, pushing those out, deep research as being essentially an AI agent, and the idea that short of discovering new science, they'd like their most powerful pro models to be able to solve any difficult problem you put to them, even if it takes a few hours and it has to use a number of tools to do so. We'll continue with that, but bear those in mind because they all matter in terms of this future that we're building right now.
that's like an amazing rate of scale for more compute in this new paradigm, and we don't see any signs of that stopping.
I really appreciate it as someone who uses ChatGPT pro user, and yeah, thank you. And I'm curious to know, within the limits of what you can disclose, could you please share your future research plans, as well as what you currently see achievable, and what you might particularly prove particularly challenging?
Sure. So on Friday we launched O3 Mini, and I think that points to a lot of what future research will look like over the next 6 or 12 months. We will push small, incredibly capable, incredibly fast reasoning models as far as we can, and right now those are mostly good at STEM, but they'll get good at everything else. We will bring all of the modalities together. So in the same model, you'll be able to have a voice stream going while it writes and compiles code for you in Canvas, and you'll be able to look at it that way. It'll be able to be off browsing the internet. And then we'll continue to scale up models. So, hopefully GPT-5, 6, whatever. Today, or I think actually like half an hour ago, we launched a new thing called Deep Research. It's in the Pro plan. It will come to the Plus tier at limits, but it's in the Pro plan today. This is the second agent product that we've launched, and it's really I think it's one of the best things we've ever launched. You can give this a task that you would have to spend many hours or days researching on the internet, thinking about finding stuff, and it'll come back with a report. It's not just good at doing like reports for school, but it is really good at that. It's pretty good across the board, and it feels like a real agent. I love like 90s JDM cars, so I was in town this weekend, and I wanted to find a specific one, and I was having a really hard time, and I was like, I'm going to try giving this to Deep Research. There's no way it's going to find me one. And it found the only 3 for sale in all of Japan, like with contact information ready to go. It was an amazing experience. So we'll do more agents like that. We'll continue to push on agents that can do useful work for you autonomously. We've talked about how the dream is to get to a coding agent. There's a lot of research still to get there, but I think that'll be a really like hugely important milestone. And overall, I hope that by the end of this year, we have a model that you can use. If you have the Pro tier, you can turn the compute all the way up, and you can ask it a really hard question, not one that requires discovering new science, but most things short of that. And you kind of just get it to work. It may have to go off and think for a few hours. It may have to go use a bunch of tools, but it kind of just does it for you. We've got a long way to go to get there. That's like a lot of scale, a lot more algorithmic progress, but I think it is achievable.
To sum up, if Altman is right about the next year and the next 10 years, we're in the artificial superintelligence endgame now. And what we do about it will shape humanity's future for centuries, if not longer.